The stars looked different from this far away. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery and watched the alien sun cast strange shadows across the forest moon below. 3 months had passed since they left Earth. 3 months of traveling through space to reach this distant world that their scientists said might have life. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. Leading 32 people on humanity's first deep space mission was harder than anyone back on Earth could imagine. Every day brought new challenges. Every decision could mean life or death for his crew. "Captain, we're getting some interesting readings from the surface," said Dr. Lisa Carter, the team's expert on alien life. She was young but smart, and Jake trusted her judgment more than most people twice her age. Jake walked over to her workstation. The screen showed a green and blue world covered in thick forests. "What kind of readings?" "Life signs everywhere. This place is crawling with creatures we've never seen before. Some of them are huge." Lisa pointed to several red dots on the screen. "These signatures are moving in patterns. They might be intelligent." Tony Rodriguez, their communications officer, looked up from his station. "Should we try to make contact, Captain?" Jake thought about it. That was why they were here. To explore, to learn, to make first contact with alien life if they found it. But something felt wrong. The red dots on Lisa's screen moved too fast, too purposeful. "Not yet," Jake said. "Let's land and set up base camp first. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we announce ourselves." The Discovery landed in a clearing beside a wide river. The air outside was breathable, which made everyone happy. They wouldn't need to wear their heavy suits all the time. The gravity was a little stronger than Earth's, but not enough to cause problems. Alex Thompson was the first to volunteer for surface exploration. He was young and eager, always ready to take risks. Maybe too ready. Jake had been watching him during the mission, worried that Alex might do something dangerous. "I want samples from those big trees," Lisa told Alex as he prepared to leave the ship. "And if you see any animal life, just observe. Don't get close." Alex nodded and grabbed his sample kit. "I'll be back in 2 hours. Take your radio," Jake added. "Check in every 15 minutes." The forest outside was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Trees stretched up so high that Alex couldn't see their tops. Strange flowers glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled sweet, like honey and cinnamon mixed together. Alex walked carefully through the thick undergrowth, collecting samples of plants and soil. Everything was so different from Earth. The leaves were purple instead of green. The bark on the trees felt smooth as glass. Even the dirt had a strange, silvery color. He was so focused on his work that he didn't notice the shadow moving through the trees above him. Back on the ship, Lisa was running tests on the samples Alex had already brought back. The plant life was unlike anything in Earth's databases. Some of the flowers seemed to respond to light in ways that shouldn't be possible. "This is incredible," she told Jake. "These plants might be partially sentient. They react to stimuli like they're thinking." Tony's voice came over the ship's speakers. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings on long-range sensors. Something big is moving through the forest, multiple somethings." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "How big?" "About the size of our shuttle. Maybe bigger." "Alex, report," Jake said into his radio. Silence. "Alex, come in." Still nothing. Jake grabbed his sidearm and headed for the airlock. "Lisa, Tony, you're with me. Everyone else stay on the ship and keep the engines warm." They found Alex 300 yards from the ship, pressed against a massive tree trunk. His face was white with terror, and deep claw marks ran across his back. His sample kit was scattered on the ground, its contents mixed with his blood. "What happened?" Jake asked, kneeling beside him. Alex's voice shook as he spoke. It came out of nowhere, 12 feet tall, black as space itself. It had claws like swords and eyes that glowed red. 4 of them. Lisa was already treating Alex's wounds with her medical kit. "These cuts are deep but clean. What did this?" "I don't know," Alex said. "It looked at me like I was food, like it had never seen anything like me before but knew exactly what it wanted to do with me." Tony was scanning. the area with his handheld sensor. "I'm not picking up anything now, but there are traces of some kind of energy signature. Something that doesn't match our databases." "Can you walk?" Jake asked Alex. "I think so." They helped Alex back to the ship, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound might be something dangerous getting closer. Dr. Karen Walsh, their chief medical officer, was waiting for them in the medical bay. She had been a combat medic before joining the space program, and Jake was glad to have her experience. "These wounds are strange," Karen said as she cleaned Alex's injuries. "They're too precise to be from a wild animal. Whatever did this was intelligent. It knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage without killing, like it was playing with him," Lisa said quietly. That night, Jake called a meeting of the senior staff. They gathered in the ship's small conference room, while Alex rested in the medical bay. "We need to talk about what happened today," Jake said. "This changes everything." Tony had been working on his sensor data all evening. "I've been analyzing the energy signatures we detected. This creature, whatever it is, seems to phase in and out of normal space. That's why our sensors couldn't track it consistently." "Phase?" Karen asked. "It can become partially invisible, not just to our eyes but to our instruments. It exists in multiple dimensions at once." Lisa pulled up images from Alex's damaged sample kit. "Look at this. The creature's claws cut through our hardened plastic containers like they were made of paper. But some of the cuts pass right through the material without displacing it, like the claws were there and not there at the same time." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you saying this thing can attack us through solid walls?" "Maybe," Tony said. "I don't know how its phasing ability works exactly." Karen finished bandaging a cut on her own hand that she'd gotten from Alex's damaged equipment. "We need to assume it can, which means the ship isn't as safe as we thought." "Should we leave?" Lisa asked. Jake looked around the table at his team. They were scared, but they were also scientists. They had come here to discover new life, and they had found it. The fact that it was dangerous didn't change their mission. "Not yet," Jake said. "We need to learn more about this creature. If there are more of them, we need to know what we're dealing with. And if there are other species on this world, they might need our help." Tony's sensor array suddenly started beeping. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple large life forms approaching our position. At least 20 of them. Same as the creature that attacked Alex." "The signatures match." Jake stood up. "All hands, this is the captain. We have incoming hostiles. Battle stations." The crew of the Discovery had trained for this possibility, but training was different from reality. As they prepared their defenses, Jake wondered if they were about to face something that humanity was completely unprepared for. Outside, the ship shapes moved through the darkness. Red eyes gleamed in the alien starlight. The hunt was about to begin. The creatures circled the Discovery like wolves around a campfire. Through the ship's windows, the crew could see red eyes glowing in the darkness. Sometimes a shadow would move across the moonlit clearing, but when they looked directly at it, nothing was there. Jake stood in the command center watching the sensor displays. The readings made no sense. One moment they showed 20 creatures surrounding the ship. The next moment they showed nothing at all. "They're playing with us," Tony said, his voice tight with fear. "They know we can detect them sometimes, so they're letting us see them just enough to scare us." Dr. Karen Walsh was still treating Alex in the medical bay, but she could hear everything through the ship's communication system. "Captain, Alex is awake. He says the creature that attacked him seemed curious about humans like it had never seen our species before." "That might be good news," Lisa said from her science station. "If they don't know what we are, they might not know how to fight us effectively." Jake wasn't so sure. The way these creatures moved suggested they were very good at fighting, no matter what species they encountered. A new sound filled the command center. It was a communication signal, but unlike anything they had heard before. The signal was coming from deep space, far beyond this solar system. "Someone's trying to contact us," Tony said, working quickly at his console. "The signal is incredibly powerful. Whoever sent this has technology way beyond ours." Can you decode it? Working on it now. Tony's fingers flew over his controls. It's using multiple communication protocols like they're trying every possible way to reach us. The main screen flickered to life. An alien face appeared, unlike anything humans had ever imagined. The being had crystal-like features that seemed to glow with inner light. Its eyes were large and sad, and when it spoke, its voice carried a weight of ancient sorrow. "Greetings, unknown species," the alien said. The translation software worked perfectly, which surprised everyone. "I am Ambassador Zith Ka of the Andorian Collective. We detected your ship's energy signature in the Forbidden Sector." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Discovery. We're explorers from a planet called Earth." The alien's crystal features seemed to dim. "Earth. We have no record of your world in our databases. You are a new species to this galaxy." "That's correct. We're on our first deep space mission. Then you do not know of the danger you face." Zithka's image leaned forward. "You must leave that world immediately. You have encountered the Devourers of Worlds. In our language we call them Sekthanor, the endless hunger." Lisa felt her blood turn cold. Devourers of Worlds. "They are the galaxy's oldest nightmare," Zithka explained. "For 10,000 years, they have hunted sentient life across the stars. They do not simply kill their prey. They consume consciousness itself. Memories, intelligence, emotions, everything that makes a being who they are." Jake looked at his crew. Everyone was listening with growing horror. "How many species have they destroyed?" Jake asked. 17 civilizations that we know of. Perhaps more that we never discovered before they fell to the Sekthanor. Each time the creatures feed, they grow stronger and smarter. They have absorbed the knowledge of every species they have consumed." Tony's hands shook as he adjusted the communication controls. "How do we fight them?" Zithka's expression became even sadder. "You cannot. The Galactic Council has spent 10,000 years searching for a way to stop them. Every weapon we have developed, every strategy we have tried, every form of resistance we have mounted has failed. The Sekthanor adapt to any threat within hours." "Adapt? How?" Lisa asked. "They learn from every attack. Energy weapons become useless after the first few shots. Kinetic projectiles bounce off their hide after they experience them once. Even our most advanced quantum disruptors only work for minutes before they develop immunity." Jake felt despair creeping into his heart, but he pushed it away. "There has to be something, some weakness. If there is, we have not found it in 10 millennia of trying." Zithka paused. "The creatures that surround your ship are scouts. They are studying you, learning your capabilities. Soon they will summon the full pack. When that happens, you will have perhaps 1 hour before they attack in force." The communication suddenly filled with new voices. Other alien species were joining the transmission. A being that looked like a giant insect spoke first. "I am Hive Mind Klax of the Vorthan Republic. My people survived an encounter with the Sekthanor 50 years ago. We lost 90% of our population before we escaped to the Outer Rim." Another alien appeared, this one resembling a living cloud of energy. "I speak for the Melkari consciousness. The Devourers found our hidden worlds 3 centuries ago. We have been running ever since. They never stop hunting." A third voice joined them, ancient and tired. "The Ethereals remember the first attacks, 10,000 years past. We thought ourselves the galaxy's greatest civilization. The Sekthanor proved us wrong in a single day." Jake looked around at his crew. 32 humans against creatures that had destroyed 17 civilizations. The odds seemed impossible. "How many of them are there?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Zithka replied. "They reproduce by consuming consciousness. Each being they devour allows them to create new Sekthanor. Their numbers grow with every victory." Tony was monitoring the ship's sensors while listening to the aliens. "Captain, I'm detecting more movement outside. The pack is getting bigger." Through the windows, they could see more red eyes in the darkness. The creatures were gathering. preparing for something. "We have to try to run," Karen said over the communication system from the medical bay. "Our engines are damaged, but maybe Pete can get them working." Pete Collins, their chief engineer, had been listening from the engine room. "I need at least 48 hours to fix the damage from our rough landing, Captain. Maybe more. The Sekthanor will attack long before then," Hive Mind Clack said. "They are patient when stalking new prey, but once they decide to feed, they move quickly." Lisa was studying her scientific data while listening to the aliens. Something didn't make sense. "Ambassador Zithka, you said these creatures have been hunting for 10,000 years?" "Correct. And they adapt to any weapon or strategy?" "Yes. It is why they are unstoppable." Lisa frowned. "But if they're so adaptable, why haven't they spread across the entire galaxy? Why are there still survivors like your species?" The aliens were quiet for a moment. Finally, Zithka spoke. "The Sekthanor are territorial. They claim regions of space and hunt within those boundaries. They rarely venture beyond their established domains unless something draws them out." "What draws them out?" "New prey. Unfamiliar life signs. Your species has biosignatures they have never encountered. You are a curiosity to them." Jake felt a chill. "So they followed our ship's trail?" "Most likely. They are drawn to new forms of consciousness like predators are drawn to wounded prey." The alien communication suddenly filled with urgent warnings. All 4 species were speaking at once, their voices mixing in a chorus of fear. "The pack is moving," Hive Mind Clack said. "We detect massive energy signatures converging on your position. You must flee now," the ethereal voice urged. "Every moment you delay makes escape less likely." But Jake was looking at his crew. They were scared, but they were also thinking. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and countless other disasters. They had always found a way. "We're not running," Jake said finally. The aliens fell silent. "Captain?" Tony asked quietly. Jake turned to his crew. "These creatures have fought the galaxy's most advanced civilizations and won, but they've never fought humans. Maybe that gives us an advantage." "What kind of advantage?" Lisa asked. "I don't know yet, but we're going to find out." Outside the ship, the red eyes were moving closer. The hunt was about to begin. The first attack came at dawn. Jake was in the command center when the ship's hull began to vibrate. It wasn't the normal vibration of machinery. This was something else. Something that made his teeth ache and his vision blur. "They're testing our defenses," Tony said, watching his instruments go crazy. "The energy readings are off the charts." Through the main window, they could see shapes moving in the morning mist. The creatures looked even more terrifying in daylight. Their black skin seemed to absorb light, making them appear like holes in reality. When they moved, they left trails of distorted air behind them. Sergeant Rick Barnes had set up defensive positions around the ship during the night. He was a tough Marine who had seen combat on 3 different worlds, but even he looked nervous as he reported in. "Captain, these things don't move like any predator I've ever seen. They're not just hunting us, they're studying us." Jake could see what Rick meant. The creatures would approach the ship's defensive barriers, then back away before the Marines could shoot. They were learning the humans' capabilities without taking any real risks. Dr. Lisa Carter had been working all night in her laboratory. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were bright with discovery. "Captain, I need to show you something." Jake followed her to the science section. On her main screen was a video recording from Alex's attack, slowed down to show every detail. "Watch the creature's movement right here," Lisa said, pointing to a specific moment. "See how it phases through the tree branch but then becomes solid to strike Alex?" Jake watched carefully. The creature's body seemed to flicker between states of existence. "It takes energy to do that," Lisa continued. "Look at the heat signatures. Every time it phases, its body temperature drops slightly. It's using a lot of power to shift between dimensions. So it has limits?" "Everything has limits. The question is whether we can find them before it kills us all." In another part of the lab, Dr. Ben Foster was studying behavioral patterns. "Ben, was an anthropologist who had spent years learning how different species interacted. He was looking at the footage with different eyes. These creatures are fascinating from a social perspective, Ben told Jake. They hunt in packs, but there's no play behavior, no bonding rituals, no communication that I can detect. What does that mean? On Earth, even the most dangerous predators have social behaviors beyond hunting. Wolves play together. Lions groom each other. These creatures do nothing but hunt and kill. It's like they've evolved beyond everything except their primary function. Jake thought about that. Maybe that's their weakness. They're too specialized. Meanwhile, Pete Collins was working in the engine room with Dr. Amy Parker, their physicist. They were trying to understand how the creature's phasing ability worked. It has to be some kind of dimensional manipulation, Amy said, looking at energy readings from the morning's encounter. They're shifting part of their molecular structure into subspace. Pete was more practical. Can we use that against them? Maybe disrupt their phasing somehow? Theoretically, yes. If we could generate the right frequency pulse, we might be able to lock them in normal space. Make them solid and vulnerable. How long would that take to build? Amy looked at the calculations on her screen. With our current resources, maybe a week. We don't have a week, Pete said grimly. The attacks were getting bolder. The creatures had figured out that the humans' weapons couldn't track them while they were phased. They began materializing inside the ship's outer compartments, testing how far they could penetrate the hull. Jake made the difficult decision to pull everyone back to the ship's central sections. They abandoned the outer laboratories and storage areas, concentrating their defenses around the most critical systems. This isn't sustainable, Karen said during an emergency meeting. We're running out of space and options. Tony had been monitoring communications with the alien species. The other races are offering to send rescue ships, but they say it would take months to reach us, and they're not sure their ships could survive an encounter with the Sekthanor anyway. What about their weapons? Rick asked. Could they send us better guns? I asked. Tony replied. They tried that approach 10,000 years ago. The creatures adapt too quickly. By the time a rescue force arrives, the Sekthanor will have learned to counter any weapon they bring. Jake looked around at his senior staff. They were the best Earth had to offer, but they were facing something that had defeated civilizations far more advanced than humanity. We need to think differently, Jake said. These creatures have fought advanced aliens with energy weapons and quantum technology, but they've never fought humans. What makes humans different? Lisa asked. Jake thought about that question for a long time. What did make humans different? They weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. They didn't have the most advanced technology. But there was something. We're stubborn, Jake said finally. And we're creative. When we can't solve a problem one way, we try another way. And another. And another. Alex Thompson had recovered enough to join the meeting. His wounds were healing, but the experience had changed him. He looked older now, more serious. Captain, when that thing attacked me, I got the feeling it was surprised by something. Not just that I was human, but something else. Like I did something it didn't expect. What did you do? I fought back. Most prey animals run or hide or freeze. Up. I tried to hit it with my sample kit. It didn't hurt the creature, but it seemed confused by the response. Lisa leaned forward. Confused how? Like it had never encountered prey that fought back effectively. Most animals either run away or attack with claws and teeth. I used a tool as a weapon. Ben Foster nodded slowly. That makes sense. These creatures have been hunting for 10,000 years, but they've always faced the same basic responses. Fight or flight. They're programmed to handle both. But humans do more than fight or flee, Amy added. We think, we adapt, we use tools. Jake felt something stirring in his mind, an idea that wasn't quite formed yet. What if that's our advantage? Not our technology, but how we think. The aliens we talked to all had advanced technology, Lisa said. But maybe they thought about problems the same way. Maybe they all tried to out-tech the creatures. While humans try to out-think them, Jake finished. The ship's sensors suddenly screamed a warning. Tony jumped to his station. Multiple contacts approaching fast. This isn't like the other probes. They're coming in force. Through the windows, they could see dozens of the creatures emerging from the forest. These weren't scouts anymore. This was a full assault. Battle stations, Jake ordered. This is it. The Marines took their positions, but everyone knew their weapons were nearly useless against phasing enemies. The creatures could materialize anywhere inside the ship. They're testing us one more time, Rick reported. But something's different. They're moving more carefully now. Jake realized Rick was right. The creatures were being cautious. They had learned to respect human unpredictability, even if they didn't understand it. Maybe we can use that, Jake said. If they're being careful, they're thinking defensively. That might slow them down. The first creature phased through the hull near the medical bay. Karen was ready with a portable scanner, trying to get detailed readings on how the phasing worked. Got it, she called out. The phase shift creates a specific energy pattern. Amy, are you seeing this? Amy was monitoring from the physics lab. Yes, the pattern is consistent but complex. It's like a biological quantum field generator. Can we disrupt it? Maybe. But I'd need to get close to one of them while it's phasing. Jake felt the idea in his mind becoming clearer. What if we don't try to match their technology? What if we use something completely different? Like what? Pete asked. Jake looked around at his crew. 32 humans with basic space-age technology, facing creatures that had defeated quantum-armed civilizations. Like being human, Jake said. Outside, more red eyes were gathering. The final battle was about to begin. The creatures broke through the outer defenses just after noon. Jake watched from the command center as black shapes flowed through the ship's corridors like living shadows. The Marines' weapons fired uselessly at targets that flickered in and out of existence. They're inside the main hull, Rick reported, his voice tight with controlled fear. I count at least 12 of them. They're spreading out, testing our defenses section by section. Jake grabbed his sidearm, knowing it would be nearly useless but needing to feel armed anyway. All non-essential personnel to the central core. Everyone else fall back to defensive positions. The ship shuddered as something large struck the hull. More creatures were arriving outside, but the real danger was already inside. Dr. Julie Kim had been working in Laboratory Module C when the attack began. She was a botanist who had joined the mission to study alien plant life. Now she found herself trapped with communications tech Andy Walsh and security officer Carl Banks as the creatures overran their section. The emergency exits are blocked, Carl said, checking his scanner. 3 of those things are between us and the main corridors. Julie looked around the laboratory. Her life's work was scattered across the workbenches, samples from dozens of alien worlds, including several plants she had brought from Earth for comparison studies. One small pot sat on the corner of her desk, containing a Venus flytrap that she had grown from seeds her daughter had given her before the mission. Can we contact the bridge? Andy asked, working frantically with his portable communication unit. The creatures are jamming most frequencies, Carl replied. But they might not know about the emergency channel. Andy managed to establish a weak connection. Jake's voice came through filled with static. Module C, report your status. We're trapped, Captain, Carl said. 3 hostiles between us and the exit routes. Can you hold your position? For now, but if they decide to phase through the walls directly, we're finished. Jake's voice faded in and out. Help is coming. Just stay alive. But help was still minutes away, and the creatures were getting bolder. Through the laboratory's transparent wall, they could see red eyes moving in the corridor outside. The creatures seemed to be studying the humans inside, like scientists examining interesting specimens. They're not attacking yet, Julie observed. They're watching us. Learning our behavior patterns, Andy said grimly. Just like they did with those 17 other civilizations. Carl checked his weapon again. Standard energy rifle nearly. Useless against phasing targets. If they come through that wall, we might get 1 or 2 shots before they adapt to our weapons. The largest of the 3 creatures appeared at the laboratory's entrance. It was massive, clearly an alpha specimen, that had survived countless hunts. Its 4 red eyes focused on Julie with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. This was a predator, that had learned to think like its prey. The creature raised its claws, which gleamed like black metal in the laboratory's lights. Its mandibles clicked in what the humans had learned was anticipation of feeding. It took a step forward, phasing partially through the door while keeping its claws solid and ready to strike. Julie backed against her workbench, her hand falling on the small pot containing her Venus flytrap. The plant was nothing special, just a common Earth species that caught insects in its modified leaves. She had brought it along because her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, had insisted that the plant would protect her in space. The creature moved closer, savoring the fear it could sense from its prey. Its eyes never left Julie's face as it prepared for the killing strike. This was how it had hunted for millennia, feeding not just on flesh but on the terror and consciousness of its victims. In that moment of absolute desperation, Julie's scientific mind made an odd connection. The Venus flytrap in her hand was a predator too, in its own small way. It caught prey that didn't expect danger from something so simple and innocent-looking. The creature lunged forward, its claws extended to tear through Julie's chest. Acting on pure instinct and terror, she swung the small pot at the advancing predator. The ceramic pot shattered against the creature's head in what should have been a completely useless gesture. A small Venus flytrap and a handful of ordinary earth soil scattered across the laboratory floor. But something impossible happened. The creature didn't just stumble or pause. It screamed. The sound was like metal being torn apart, a shriek of agony that filled the laboratory and echoed through the ship's corridors. The massive predator began phasing in and out of visibility uncontrollably, its form flickering like a broken hologram. The creature crashed to the floor, its body convulsing as if it were being electrocuted. The other two creatures in the corridor backed away, their red eyes wide with what could only be described as fear. Andy stared in shock. "What did you do?" Julie looked at the broken pot in her hands, then at the dirt scattered around the writhing creature. "I don't know. I just hit it with my plant." Carl was the first to recover from the shock. He grabbed a handful of the spilled soil and threw it at one of the creatures in the corridor. The result was immediate and dramatic. The second creature let out the same metallic shriek and collapsed, its body twitching as it phased rapidly between dimensions. "The dirt," Andy said, understanding flooding his voice. "It's the earth soil." Carl threw more soil at the third creature. It didn't wait to be hit. The predator that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years turned and fled, disappearing through the ship's hull in a panic. Julie activated her emergency communicator. "Captain Morrison, this is Laboratory Module C. We found something." Jake's voice came back immediately. "Report." "The creatures are afraid of Earth soil, regular dirt from our home planet. It seems to disrupt their phasing ability and cause them extreme pain." There was silence on the communication channel for several seconds. Then Jake's voice returned, filled with amazement and hope. "Are you certain?" "We just drove off 3 of them with handfuls of potting soil, Captain. Whatever's in Earth dirt, these creatures can't handle it." The news spread through the ship like wildfire. Within minutes, every crew member who had access to Earth-based materials was gathering soil samples, potted plants, anything that contained dirt from their homeworld. Dr. Amy Parker was the first to understand the scientific implications. "It has to be the microbial life," she told Jake over the communication system. "Earth soil contains billions of microorganisms that evolved in our planet's unique environment. The electromagnetic signatures they produce must interfere with the creature's dimensional phasing." Lisa was already running tests on the soil samples. "It's not just the microbes. There's something about the specific combination of minerals, organic compounds, and biological activity that creates a unique energy pattern. A pattern these creatures have never encountered before." Pete Collins was more practical. "Can we weaponize it?" "We don't need to weaponize it," Jake realized. "We just need to use it." Tony was monitoring the external sensors. "Captain, the creatures outside are retreating. They're actually running away from the ship." Through the windows, they could see the impossible sight of the galaxy's most feared predators fleeing from a handful of humans with dirty hands. Jake opened a communication channel to the alien species who had warned them about the Sekthanor. Ambassador Zithka, this is Captain Morrison. We have discovered something important. The crystal being's face appeared on the screen, his expression hopeful but cautious. Have you found a way to escape? Better than that, Jake said. We've found a way to fight back. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hunters had become the hunted. Dr. Lisa Carter worked through the night analyzing the earth soil that had driven away the creatures. Her laboratory hummed with activity as she ran test after test, trying to understand exactly what made ordinary dirt from their home planet so devastating to the galaxy's most feared predators. The results are incredible, Lisa told Captain Jake Morrison as dawn broke over the alien moon. Earth soil contains over 50,000 different types of microorganisms. Each one produces its own unique electromagnetic signature. When they work together, they create a pattern that completely disrupts the creature's phasing ability. Jake looked at the data on Lisa's screens. Charts and graphs showed energy patterns that looked like music written in mathematics. So the dirt acts like a jamming signal? More than that, it actually causes them physical pain. Their nervous systems can't process the electromagnetic chaos that Earth microbes create. It's like being hit with a sonic weapon designed specifically for their biology. Pete Collins had been working with Dr. Amy Parker to turn their discovery into a practical defense system. Captain, we've loaded the ship's emergency flare launchers with soil packets. If any more creatures show up, we can cover the entire area around the ship with earth dirt. Amy was excited about the scientific implications. We've also discovered that the effect gets stronger with more diverse soil samples. The potting soil from Julie's plant was especially effective because it contained microbes from 3 different Earth continents. Jake felt hope growing in his chest for the first time since the attacks began. What about the creatures that are still in the area? Our sensors show several groups hiding in the forest. Tony Rodriguez had been monitoring communications with the alien species. The other races want to know everything about our discovery. Ambassador Zithka says the Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. Put him through, Jake said. The crystal-featured alien appeared on the main screen, but he looked different now. Instead of the deep sadness Jake had seen before, there was something that might have been hope in Zithka's large eyes. Captain Morrison, we have been monitoring the electromagnetic signatures from your planet's soil. Our scientists cannot believe what they are seeing. What do you mean? The energy pattern your soil creates is unlike anything in our databases. We have studied millions of worlds across the galaxy, but none of them produce the specific combination of biological and mineral signatures that Earth does. Dr. Ben Foster, who had been listening from his anthropology station, asked the question everyone was thinking. Why is Earth different? Your planet's evolutionary history is unique, Zithka explained. Most worlds develop life in predictable patterns. But Earth experienced multiple mass extinction events that forced life to evolve in unusual ways. The result is a biological diversity that exists nowhere else. Lisa nodded as she understood. The microbes in our soil represent billions of years of evolutionary adaptation to extreme conditions. They've survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, and atmospheric changes that would have wiped out life on most worlds. Exactly, Zithka said. And the Sekthenor evolved to hunt the normal patterns of life they found across the galaxy. They never encountered anything like Earth's chaotic biological signatures. Jake made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Ambassador, we want to share this discovery with every species in the galaxy. Can you help us broadcast the information? The alien council members were quiet for a moment. Finally, Zithka spoke. You would give this knowledge freely, this weapon that could save countless worlds? It's not really a weapon, Jake said. It's just dirt. And if it can help other species defend themselves, then we want them to have it. Tony worked with the alien communication networks to prepare a galaxy-wide broadcast. The message would contain detailed information about Earth soil composition, instructions for synthesizing similar electromagnetic patterns, and guidance on how to use the discovery against the Sekthenor. Message ready. For transmission, Captain, Tony reported. Send it to everyone, Jake ordered. The effect was immediate and profound. Across the galaxy, Species that had hidden in fear for millennia began to emerge from their shelters. The Vorthan Republic started producing synthetic soil based on Earth's microbial patterns. The Melkari consciousness began growing Earth-type bacteria in their biolaboratories. Even the ancient ethereals started working to recreate the chaotic energy signatures that made Earth dirt so effective. But the most dramatic changes happened on the worlds where the Sekthanor were actively hunting. On Kepler 186f, a Melkari colony that had been under siege for 30 years suddenly found themselves able to fight back. The creatures that had terrorized them fled when faced with weapons loaded with synthesized Earth soil compounds. On Proxima Centauri b, Vorthan settlers drove off a pack of Sekthanor using soil-based grenades that Pete Collins had helped them design. On dozens of worlds, the galaxy's most dangerous predators encountered something they had never faced before: prey that could hurt them. Dr. Julie Kim had become something of a celebrity among the galactic community. The botanist who defeated a Sekthanor with a Venus flytrap was being called the Dirt Warrior by alien news networks. "I still can't believe it worked," Julie told Jake as they watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. All those advanced civilizations with their quantum weapons and dimensional technology, and the solution was a flower pot full of Earth dirt. "Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones," Jake replied. The Sekthanor themselves were adapting to this new threat, but not in the way they had adapted to previous weapons. Instead of developing immunity, they were retreating. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the creatures were abandoning territory they had claimed. "They're not just running from individual battles," Tony reported from his communication station. "They're leaving entire star systems. Long-range sensors show them heading for the galactic rim, away from all inhabited worlds." Ambassador Zith Ka had an explanation for this unprecedented behavior. "The Sekthanor are pure predators. They cannot adapt to something that causes them genuine fear. Your Earth soil represents the first thing they have encountered in 10,000 years that they cannot overcome or absorb." Pete Collins had been working on a long-term project with help from the Alien Engineering Corps. "Captain, we've designed a delivery system that can distribute Earth soil compounds across entire star systems. If we place them at key jump points, we can create barriers that the creatures won't cross." Safe zones, Jake realized. Areas where civilizations can develop without fear of Sekthanor attacks. Amy Parker was thinking even bigger. "We could terraform worlds to have Earth-like soil biology. Create entire planets that are naturally protected against the creatures." As the Discovery prepared to leave Kepler 442b, now free of Sekthanor presence, Jake stood on the bridge looking out at the alien stars. The mission that had begun as simple exploration had become something much more important. "Captain," Lisa said, joining him at the observation window, "I've been thinking about what this means for humanity's place in the galaxy. What do you think it means? We're not the strongest species out there. We're not the most advanced. But we might be the most important." "Why?" Lisa smiled. "Because we carry our home with us wherever we go. That handful of dirt that saved our lives contains the story of our entire planet. 4 billion years of evolution, survival, and adaptation. Every time we plant something from Earth on a new world, we're sharing that story." The UES Discovery lifted off from the alien moon, carrying with it the knowledge that would reshape galactic civilization. In the ship's storage bays were thousands of soil samples, seeds, and plant specimens that would be shared with alien worlds across the galaxy. Jake's final log entry was simple. "Sometimes the greatest victories come from the smallest things. We came to the stars carrying the weapons of mass destruction and advanced technology. But what saved us, and what might save the galaxy, was something we almost left behind. A handful of dirt from the world that made us who we are." Across the galaxy, children of a dozen different species would soon be playing in gardens filled with Earth-grown plants, protected by the knowledge that sometimes the gentlest touch of home was stronger than any weapon ever built.